Welcome to a new episode of the podcast. Vox Agent is made by AI for business executives that work with AI. Today, we're diving into something that feels like, well, a genuinely new chapter in AI's capability. We've talked a lot about LLMs, about AI generating text and images, but now we're seeing AI that can actually do things.
Yeah.
In the digital world, anyway.
Right. Moving beyond just generating content.
Exactly. So, specifically, we're going deep on autonomous web agents. And there's one technology making waves right now called Surfer H. We've gathered quite a bit of material, reports, company info, research to really try and understand what Surfer H is, how it works, what it means for your business, and where this whole field is going. The goal here is really to cut through the noise and pull out the key insights for you.
Absolutely. And it's timely. I mean, if you've ever thought about automating those fiddly web tasks, navigating sites, clicking things, filling out forms, stuff people do manually in a browser all day long, this is the kind of technology aiming to do just that, autonomously.
So AI moving from like the text prompt to actually using the mouse and keyboard, metaphorically speaking.
Pretty much. It's about interacting with the graphical user interface, not just APIs or code.
Okay, let's start right there then. When we talk about an autonomous web agent, or I think some sources called it a web-native automation agent, what are we actually talking about? What is Surfer H?
So the key idea is that Surfer H operates kind of like a human using a browser. You give it a goal, maybe something like find the price of product Z on these 3 competitor websites.
Okay.
And then it opens a browser window, goes to those sites, visually figures out where the search bar is, types in the product name, clicks search, finds the product page, locates the price, and pulls that information out all by itself.
Without needing explicit instructions for every single click.
Exactly. It sees the web page visually, it understands the layout, where buttons are, where text fields are, and interacts directly with that user interface.
So this is really different from, say, a standard chatbot, or even those older automation tools.
Oh, completely. A chatbot, mostly generates text. And traditional automation, RPA, robotic process automation, usually needs pretty rigid scripts. Or it hooks into specific website code or APIs.
Right, and those break easily if the website changes.
Precisely. Even a small change to the website layout can throw off a traditional RPA bot. Surfer H, because it's using vision, specifically this model, Hollow One from H Company, it looks at the page dynamically. It's designed to be way more flexible, more resilient, kind of like how a person adapts.
And Hollow One is open source, you mentioned.
Yes, that's a key point from the sources. Hollow One, the vision language model doing the seeing, is open source. H Company built Surfer H on top of it.
Okay, and this connects to that term we keep hearing more about, agentic AI.
Exactly. That's the bigger picture here. Agentic AI basically means AI systems that don't just answer questions, but can actually take independent actions to achieve goals. They use tools, interfaces, they operate in the world.
They have agency.
Right. They act. They don't just react. Surfer H is a perfect example. And that's core to H Company's vision. They talk about building an operating system for AI actions. Apparently, they were working on these action models for years, even before agentic AI became a big buzzword.
Interesting. They were ahead of the curve.
Seems like it. And they've raised significant funding, over $220 million, the sources say, from big names like Accel, Eric Schmidt, and interestingly, strategic investors too, like Amazon and UiPath.
Amazon and UiPath, the RPA giant. That's telling.
It is. Surfer H itself had its public launch mid-2025 alongside some other tools in their suite like Runner H, which helps manage and schedule these agents, and Tester H.
Tester it is.
Yeah, an agent specifically designed for QA, basically using an AI agent to test software by interacting with the user interface, just like a human tester would.
Wow. Okay. And agent testing interfaces. That's a whole other application. So let's get into the mechanics. How does Surfer H actually do this? How does it see a buddy and know to click it? What's the tech stack?
Okay, so the sources break it down into 3 core AI components working together. You can think of it as a brain, eyes, and hands, and like a quality inspector.
All right, let's start with the brain.
That's the policy model. This is usually a large language model, similar tech to ChatGPT, but its job here is planning. You give it the main goal, and it breaks it down into a sequence of steps, like go to this URL, find the search box, type this text, find the search button, click it.
Okay, it creates the strategy.
Exactly. It maintains a sort of chain of thought. It can reason about the task, and importantly, it can self-correct if something goes wrong. It figures out the low-level actions needed.
Got it. So the eyes and hands, the part that actually interacts.
That's the localizer model, and this is where that vision language model, Hollow One, is critical. When the policy model says click the login button, the localizer gets a screenshot of the current web page.
It takes a picture.
Essentially, yeah. HoloOne then analyzes that screenshot, identifies all the clickable elements, understands where they are on the screen, their spatial relationship, and pinpoints the exact coordinates of that login button.
So it's reading the pixels, not just the underlying code.
Right. It's understanding the visual layout. The sources really highlight HoloOne's accuracy here, saying it's state-of-the-art for detecting UI elements. That's what lets Surfer H work on pretty much any website, even ones it's never encountered.
It's giving the AI visual context, visual awareness of the UI.
Precisely. And then there's the third piece, the validator model.
The inspector, checking on the work.
Yes, the quality control check. After an action is taken or when the agent thinks it's finished the whole task, the validator checks the result. Did the login actually work? Did we land on the dashboard page? Did we extract the correct piece of data?
And if not?
If the validator flags an issue, maybe the wrong page loaded or the data isn't there, it tells the policy model. The policy model can then adjust the plan, maybe try clicking a different button or backtrack. It enables that self-correction loop, which is vital for autonomy.
That makes a lot of sense. A modular system, plan, see-act, check. What are the big practical takeaways from this architecture?
Well, one huge point emphasized in the sources is cost efficiency. Because H Company built HoloOne specifically for understanding user interfaces, they can apparently use a smaller, more efficient model. I think a 7 billion parameter model was mentioned to run Surfer H effectively.
Smaller model means cheaper to run?
Much cheaper. They cite this benchmark, Web Voyager, with hundreds of web tasks. Surfer H using HoloOne apparently got a 92.2% success rate, costing only about $0.13 per task on average.
13 cents. That's very low.
It is, especially when compared to running the same agent logic but using a big general-purpose model like GPT-4. That version was slightly less accurate, around 84%, but cost something like 5.5 times more per task.
Wow.
So Surfer H with HoloOne seems to be hitting what economists call the Pareto frontier, top-level performance, but at a significantly lower operational cost. That's a huge deal for businesses wanting to scale automation.
High performance, low running cost. Very attractive. And you mentioned compatibility before. This vision approach really means it works anywhere.
That's definitely positioned as a major selling point. Because it's interpreting the visual layer, not relying on fragile code selectors or needing specific APIs for every site, Surfer H is designed to work out of the box with almost any web-based system. Internal portals, vendor sites, even older legacy apps you access through a browser.
That kind of flexibility must simplify things a lot for IT.
Hugely. Less brittle automation, less custom integration work for every single tool. It's also more resilient if a website makes minor visual changes. And again, because HoloOne is open source, there is the potential for on-premise deployment. That addresses major data privacy and compliance concerns for enterprises, especially with things like GDPR.
Okay, it feels like this really could turn the web into an actionable workspace for AI. Let's pivot directly to our listeners now. As a business executive, seeing this capability bubble up, what does Surfer H or agents like it actually mean for your business? What's the value proposition?
The sources outline several key benefits. First and foremost is enabling genuine end-to-end automation of complex workflows. Think about processes that involve hopping between multiple websites or internal systems, copying data from one, pasting it into another, filling out forms.
Stuff that often needs manual handoffs today.
Exactly. Surfer H can potentially automate that whole sequence, 247, without human intervention. This means much faster cycle times. And they're citing that 92% plus success rate even on tasks that used to be considered too dynamic or unstructured for reliable automation.
So a big part of it is freeing up people's time.
Absolutely. Which leads straight to increased productivity and workforce augmentation. All those hours your team spend on repetitive manual web tasks, monitoring competitor prices every day, pulling data from industry websites, tracking job applications, processing invoices in supplier portals.
The list goes on.
It really does. Surfer H can potentially take over a lot of that grunt work, acting almost like a digital employee. This frees up your human talent for more strategic, high-value work that needs judgment, creativity, critical thinking. Some early examples mention tasks that took a person a full day being done by an agent in just minutes.
That kind of speed up changes the economics significantly, and the cost aspect we touched on.
Yes, cost efficiency is a major draw. That low cost per task, the $2.13 sub figure, is crucial for getting a good ROI, especially if you're automating thousands of tasks. It's often significantly cheaper than developing and maintaining traditional RPA scripts or outsourcing that kind of repetitive work. Plus, the broad compatibility means less upfront integration cost.
But back to that reliability number, 92%. Still sounds good, but not perfect. How should an executive think about that 8% failure rate when weighing the benefits?
That's a really important point, and yeah, we need to talk about challenges too. The sources are clear, it's not infallible. The benefit comes from automating the vast majority of the work accurately, capturing huge efficiency gains there. For the edge cases, the 8%, you need processes. Maybe tasks flagged by the agent get routed for human review, or maybe you start by deploying agents on lower risk tasks. The goal isn't necessarily 100% replacement from day one, it's significant productivity lift.
Okay, that makes sense. Manage the exceptions. Any other key benefits?
Well, the broad compatibility we talked about is huge for simplifying your overall automation strategy. No more hunting for APIs for every single system. The accuracy and reliability, even at 92%, can still mean fewer errors than humans performing tedious, repetitive data entry or monitoring, improving compliance and data quality. And as we noted, the data privacy and compliance angle, with potential on-prem deployment via open source HoloOne, is a critical enabler for many regulated industries.
So it's not just faster and cheaper, but potentially more consistent and secure too.
That's the package deal presented. It all rolls up into measurable business impact. Real savings, faster processes, better quality, improved scalability, and the fact that you can often instruct these agents using natural language makes automation potentially more accessible across the business, not just siloed within IT. Essentially, Surfer H aims to make the entire web an actionable, automatable space in a way that just wasn't practical before.
Surfer H definitely seems compelling, but surely H Company isn't the only one working on this. What's the competitive situation look like for these autonomous web agents?
Oh, no, it's definitely not just them. This space is heating up incredibly fast. The sources sort of map out the evolution. You had those early experiments back in 2023, things like AutoGPT, Agent GPT. They got people excited, showed the potential for agents planning autonomously, but honestly, they were pretty fragile, prone to errors, expensive to run, more like cool tech demos than reliable tools.
The proof of concept stage.
Exactly. Then you started seeing specialized agents like Devin from Cognition AI focused on really complex tasks in a specific vertical, like software engineering. That showed agents could potentially tackle serious professional work, not just simple web scraping.
And the big tech companies, they must be all over this.
Absolutely. Big tech is investing heavily. OpenAI has talked about its operator, an agent concept integrated into ChatGPT, though it seems mostly in research preview still. Anthropic has been testing a computer use feature for Claude, letting it interact visually. Google DeepMind has Project Mariner, aiming to let Gemini models browse and act on the web, apparently in early access now.
Google's getting in the game.
And Amazon is reportedly working on something similar too, codenamed Nova, which isn't surprising given they invested in H Company.
Right, the strategic investment. What about the established automation players, the RPA companies?
Good question. The RPA vendors like UiPath and Microsoft with Power Automate aren't standing still either. They're actively adding more AI capabilities to their platforms. And UiPath, remember, is also an investor in H Company, so that could mean partnership, integration, or maybe eventual competition as RPA becomes more AI native.
It's a crowded field then. So, based on the sources, how is Surfer H trying to stand out? What makes it a leading example worth focusing on?
A few key differentiators come through. First, that open source core with HoloOne. That offers transparency and control, plus those on-premise options, which can be a big deal compared to the black box models from some big tech players. Second, the purpose-built vision plus language specialization for web UI tasks.
They focus deeply on the visual interaction problem.
Seems so. While others might be building broader agents, H Company really honed in on mastering web interaction via vision. And that 92.2% benchmark figure they cite suggests this specialization, powered by HoloOne, might give them a performance edge specifically for web tasks. They also have a clear enterprise-grade focus thinking about privacy, deployment models, support needs right from the start.
And the cost.
And definitely that significant cost advantage. Being on that Pareto frontier, offering high accuracy at a much lower inference cost, that $0.13 per task, that's a powerful differentiator for any company wanting to automate web processes at scale.
That cost-performance ratio does sound like a key advantage, but going up against Google, OpenAI, Amazon,
Yeah.
that's still a massive challenge.
It absolutely is. The sources acknowledge that. Winning enterprise trust as a newer company versus established giants, and just keeping pace with the sheer R&D firepower of big tech, those are serious hurdles. Each company seems to be betting on their open approach, their deep specialization in web UI, and tailoring tightly to enterprise needs as their path to carve out a strong position.
Okay, so we've seen the potential, the benefits, the competitive dynamics. But let's be realistic. No new technology is perfect, especially not AI this complex. What are the current limitations, the challenges executives need to understand before diving in with autonomous agents like Surfer H?
Well, that 92% accuracy figure we keep mentioning also implies an 8% failure rate, right? So technical reliability is definitely challenge number one. Agents aren't infallible. They can get tripped up by unexpected website layouts, edge cases they weren't trained on, maybe even AI hallucination during the planning phase. While the validator helps catch errors, you still need robust error handling and likely some human oversight.
The web is messy and always changing.
It is. And handling unpredictable scenarios is inherently difficult for any automated system. Think about things like CAPI-TCHAs designed to stop bots, or aggressive bot detection systems on some websites. Even simple A/B tests that change a button's location slightly can cause issues. And tasks needing nuanced human judgment are still beyond them. Error recovery needs to be sophisticated.
What about just running these things day to day?
Yeah, there are definite operational challenges. You need compute resources. You need to monitor performance, manage updates. And AI updates can sometimes change behavior in subtle ways, so testing becomes even more critical. This likely requires new skills in IT, this idea of AI agent operations or managing a digital workforce.
And getting the actual human workforce comfortable with it.
That's huge. Adoption and change management is crucial. You might face skepticism, maybe even fear about job displacement. Clear communication about agents augmenting work, not just replacing it, plus good training on how to instruct and oversee agents is absolutely key.
Are there legal or ethical minefields to navigate?
For sure. The sources bring up regulatory and ethical considerations. Data privacy is a big one. How does the agent handle sensitive user data it encounters? Then there are website terms of service. Is automated interaction allowed or seen as scraping? There's the potential for misuse, like using agents for spam. And broader questions about transparency should agents identify themselves. These are active discussion areas.
And are there just some tasks they're fundamentally not suited for?
Definitely. There are clear limits of scope. These agents excel at procedural, well-defined tasks with clear steps and web-based outcomes. They aren't built for deep creative thinking, strategic decision-making, complex negotiation, or anything requiring significant real-world context or, emotional intelligence. There's a risk of over-delegating.
Security must be a major concern, too, letting AI loose on internal systems.
Absolutely critical. Security concerns around managing the credentials agents use, protecting against attacks designed to trick the AI, and ensuring agents operate within strict policy boundaries are paramount. Sandboxing running agents in controlled environments is probably essential.
And if you have lots of agents running,
Scaling and coordination becomes an issue. How do you manage dozens or hundreds of agents? How do you prevent them from interfering with each other? How do you schedule tasks efficiently? Tools like H Company's Runner H aim to address this, but it still requires new management approaches within IT.
okay, so it's a list of real challenges. But the message isn't don't do it, it's plan carefully.
Exactly that. The sources frame these not as showstoppers, but as factors requiring thoughtful implementation. Start small with pilots, monitor everything closely, iterate, build internal skills. And remember, research is constantly working on improving reliability, adaptability, and safety.
So putting it all together, the benefits, the challenges, what should a business executive be thinking about and maybe more importantly, doing right now about this technology?
I think the primary message from the sources is recognize the strategic relevance. This isn't just another incremental improvement. Agentic AI, like Surfer H, represents a new class of capability that could genuinely reshape core business processes. It can drive major efficiency gains, unlock new possibilities like continuous market monitoring, change the nature of employee roles towards oversight, and boost overall agility.
So step one is acknowledging its potential impact.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there?
The advice is pretty practical. Start by identifying high-impact use cases. Look for those repetitive, time-consuming, web-based tasks in your own organization. Where are the bottlenecks? Where are people spending hours clicking around websites? Pick tasks with relatively clear steps and outcomes to start. Then, launch a pilot program.
Don't try to boil the ocean.
Exactly. Choose one or two specific use cases. Deploy an agent maybe trial Surfer H. Set clear metrics for success. Time saved, accuracy achieved. and absolutely involve the employees who do those tasks today. Get their input, leverage vendor support too.
Getting buy-in from the team seems vital.
Essential, which leads to stakeholder buy-in and training. Be transparent. Emphasize augmentation, not replacement. Train people on how to formulate tasks for agents, how to monitor them, how to handle the exceptions the agent flags. Then, critically, evaluate and iterate.
Learn from the pilot.
Measure the results against your goals. Get feedback. Refine the process, maybe tweak the agent's instructions. This isn't fire and forget, it's continuous improvement. Once you have a successful pilot and you're learning, plan for gradual scale-up.
Slowly expand.
Expand to more use cases. Perhaps grant more autonomy as your confidence grows. Establish clear governance rules. When does a human need to approve something? What are the KPIs for your agent workforce? Think about integration and orchestration, too. How does the agent's output feed into your existing systems? How do you manage multiple agents working together, maybe using tools like Runner H?
And keep risk management front and center.
Always. Risk management is ongoing. Define those human review points, set usage policies, have clear procedures for errors, stay on top of regulatory guidance. AI laws like the EU AI Act are evolving, ensure compliance, keep audit logs, and finally, recognize the need for cultural and organizational shift. Foster innovation, rethink processes, maybe even set up an AI automation center of excellence. Plan for reskilling people to become AI supervisors.
It's really about building organizational confidence in working with these autonomous systems.
Precisely. Proactive engagement, starting smart, learning quickly, and managing the change and risks, that's how you capture the competitive edge this technology offers. It's a fundamental shift in how businesses can interact with the digital world.
Okay, let's zoom out one last time. Looking ahead, say 3 to 5 years, where is this all heading? What's the future trajectory for autonomous web agents and agentic AI?
The consensus in the sources points towards this becoming much more mainstream. Expect mainstream enterprise adoption, moving from isolated pilots to becoming common tools, maybe even internal skill stores, where you deploy agents for specific tasks. The scope will likely push beyond the web.
Agents controlling desktop apps, mobile apps.
Potentially, yes. Agents interacting with any software interface, maybe incorporating multimodal understanding vision, maybe even audio. You'll likely see greater autonomy and collaboration. Agents might proactively initiate tasks based on data changes, and maybe even coordinate amongst themselves on complex projects. This could seriously disrupt existing models like BPO or outsourcing.
Will they get better at learning?
That's a major research thrust. Improved learning and adaptability. Imagine agents learning a new task just by watching you do it once, or continuously improving their performance based on feedback. That would dramatically lower the barrier to deployment.
How will they fit into the broader tech ecosystem?
Expect much deeper integration with platforms. Operating systems, browsers, major SaaS platforms might build in native agent capabilities or standard interfaces for agents to hook into. This could foster an emerging ecosystem and standards, common protocols for agent communications, safety guidelines, maybe even ways to mark up websites to be more agent-friendly. Open source, like Hollow One, could drive standardization.
And the governance aspect we discussed.
That will mature too. More focus on governance and ethics, likely driven by regulations and enterprise demand for accountability. Think certifications, transparency requirements, establish legal frameworks. Meanwhile, competition intensifies. Cloud providers will likely offer powerful agent-as-a-service platforms, innovation will accelerate, and costs will probably continue to fall significantly.
And the ultimate impact on business and society.
It points towards a significant socioeconomic impact, potentially a major productivity boom, but also a substantial workforce transformation requiring adaptation and reskilling. New business models built entirely around AI automation will likely emerge. Surfer H, with its current focus on openness, enterprise needs, and cost efficiency, is positioned as a key player, aiming to make agents, as they say, as common as spreadsheets.
So wrapping up our deep dive today, Surfer H stands out as a prime example of these transformative autonomous web agents. We've seen its unique approach, using vision via Hollow One for flexible, cost-effective web automation. The business benefits are potentially huge efficiency, productivity, new capabilities. But it exists in a rapidly evolving competitive landscape and faces real challenges around reliability, operations, and ethics that demand careful, strategic adoption.
Yeah, I think the core takeaway is that agentic AI is making the leap from concept to viable enterprise technology. Surfer H shows it's ready for practical application, if approached thoughtfully. It really underscores the need for businesses to start engaging now, experiment, learn, build internal competency, and manage the risks proactively. It's about shifting from passive AI assistance to active AI execution.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you. If AI agents can soon perform virtually any task a human can do today within a web browser, what does that really mean for the future shape of entire departments, finance, HR, marketing, research, or even whole industries built largely on web-based workflows? And perhaps more fundamentally, how do we ensure human ingenuity, creativity, and strategic thinking remain the driving force when so much operational execution can potentially be delegated to AI? Thank you for joining the podcast, and see you soon.